we can do. We can help. There you go. Jack Pelosi, treasurer, HB 13. I told you there's nothing we can't do.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Microphone check. Yeah, that's the wireless. I can kill that on the other channel. Hang on. Yeah, that's what you're hearing.
We'll get started in 2 minutes.
doing? You're all here. Good morning. Last time we met was before we broke for the August district work period. We were all very enthusiastic, we, our members, House Democrats, about our better deal, better jobs, better pay, better future, about how we would build infrastructure, create 10 million jobs, also have job training, create the tools for a workforce for the 21st century. And I'm very proud of our members for all of the events they had during the district work period to give us road test our better deal. And we are getting the response to all of that as they come back. And during that period of time, just in case your message isn't eclipsed enough, what did we have? We had Charlottesville, we had North Korea, Dhaka, and of course, sadly, the hurricanes, now more than one. But on Harvey, my daughter lives in Houston, so she was giving me the reports on the hardships that she had seen. I was very proud of her. She has an art school called Art Mix, and the first day they could go out, she called for help for art supplies for children in the shelters, and they had 21 SUVs full of art supplies to go out. So in any event, they were okay, but trying to help other people. And that's what is so beautiful about Houston, people helping people, a sense of community. And now we have Irma, unknown as to what all of the consequences will be, but sad about what's happening in Puerto Rico and well, all of the islands there. But from the standpoint of our members, we hear directly from Nydia Velasquez about not being able to communicate with her family for a while. Happily, by today, she has been able to. The loss of power there for nearly 1 million people and for a long period of time. It's happening in Virgin Islands. And our members in Florida are connected very closely to their constituents. Now the Carolina members are coming forward as well. So members are, while we're here, still very much with our constituents in terms of those regions that are affected. Of course, we have the fires in California and the rest. And that is all to say that when we decide how we're going to allocate resources as we go forward, we have to think in terms of mitigation and prevention. And we don't want to call it climate change, but we can call it storms, fire, earth, wind, and fire. How about that? Does that work for you? Earth, wind, and fire. So how we mitigate against some things that have become predictable and more intense as we go forward. North Korea, my concern about North Korea is mainly, and has been for years. I went to Pyongyang, to North Korea, one of the few, as many of you know, one of the few members of Congress who's been to North Korea. And when we were there, we were talking to them about many things, POWs, MIAs, and all that, the starvation of their people, but also about their testing of missiles at the time. We're talking missiles. And they said, you know what? We want to sell them. You want to buy them? We'll sell them to you. So this idea of North Korea as a proliferator is one that they talked about 15 years ago, more. And that's what I'm concerned about. I think that what the president of North Korea is doing is about deterrence, but I think it's also about a roadshow. He can sell not only the technology, the scientific know-how. He can send scientists, the missile, the delivery system. I don't think he would proliferate the nuclear aspects of it. That's a deterrent for him. But all of the resources that are available to him were not indigenous. Some of them came from some other places. So this is a very dangerous situation in many ways, including that North Korea could be a proliferator. Again, our hearts go out to the families of everyone affected by these storms. And as we're preparing to pass the bill for Harvey, as you know, we had a meeting at the White House yesterday. Preparation for the meeting, we met with our members and decided that we were not going to be agreeable to an 18-month lifting of the debt ceiling. It was just destroyed any negotiating leverage that we would have. We talked about it. We talked with our colleagues about it, some of the leadership colleagues about it. And then yesterday morning, the Republicans put out that they were going to insist on this 18-month. So we put out the 3-month proposal that we had. It was a lively debate and I told my caucus before we went, this is what our proposal is. Was a lively debate. We had not intended to be talking about CR, but of course that came up and frankly strengthened our hand for 3 months because we made it clear we would not do any longer debt ceiling than we had of the continuing resolution. This is more on the subject than you want to know. Stop me if it is, okay? No, but I mean the technicality of CR and that debt ceiling and the rest of that. But it's, as an appropriator, that's the life I led. Intelligence and appropriation, so you see that's my focus. But the but as the conversation went forward, if we're not going to take any more time, agree to any more time than what the CR is, then you have a 6-month CR, or the Defense Department can't live with that. So the fact that they brought up the CR really strengthened our hand in the 3 months for lifting the debt ceiling. The impression was given to us that something we know, we voted to lift the debt ceiling many times, but many of us, but we were kind of lectured on the importance of lifting the debt ceiling to the markets, and we know that. Yes, we know that. We've been lifting the debt ceiling. So if you have the votes, you know, in the Wall Street is Wall Street. Here, the currency of the realm is the vote. You have the votes, no discussion necessary. You don't have the votes, 3 months. So that's how we got to that. And we made it very clear in the course of the conversation that we would, the priority was to pass the DREAM Act, that we wanted to do it in the, obviously it has to be bipartisan. The President said he would, he supports that, he would sign it, but we have to get it passed, and that's our high priority. So that's why when we left the meeting, we said, in the meeting, President congressional leadership agreed to pass aid for Harvey, an extension of the debt limit, and a continuing resolution both to December 15th. I think they may have changed it back to 8th now. They asked us if that was okay. All together. Both sides have every intention of avoiding default in December and look forward to working together on many issues before us. We have the omnibus bill, all of the appropriations bills. We have SCHIP, State Children's Health Insurance Program. We have community health centers. We have extenders for Medicare. We have FAA. We have many items on the agenda. But for us, as Democratic leaders, we made it clear that in the strongest possible way that we believe the DREAM Act must come to the floor and pass as soon as possible, and we will not rest until we get that done. And so that is, that's how that went. Any questions? Yes, sir. Nancy, you can ask.
Did you get the impression during this discussion in the White House that the president seemed to be more inclined to negotiate with you and Leader Schumer than he did with Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell?
No, I think the president, when we went into the meeting, you know, it was 2 of us and what, 5 of them, or so, the president, the vice president, and 3, no, 4, Mitch, excuse me, Republican leader, the speaker, the majority leader, and the secretary of the Treasury in terms of those conversations. So, no, I think that they all came in. The vice president said, you know, you put out your number before we had this meeting. I said, no, we put up our number after you put out your number, because they had put out their number earlier. No, I think, frankly, as I said, and maybe I'll make it clear, when it was clear that we couldn't go for a longer CR from their standpoint because the Defense Department, the DOD needs the resources in a fuller way. A CR, they don't even like a CR, period. They'd rather we just pass the bills right now, and that hopefully we will do it soon. But we have issues. You know, we want parity. If you're going to lift caps on DOD, then we're going to lift caps on a discretionary domestic investments as well. So it was kind of became persuasive when the majority leader in the Senate said, I'm going to put the CR. And that was really that's really what actually strengthened our hands for 3 months.
Were you surprised the president came around so quickly?
No, it wasn't quick. See, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I decided to share so much with you this morning, because I was reading on TV. We went in there, we put it on the table, boom, out the door. No, it wasn't like that at all. It was a very long, intense conversation. Now, I'm an appropriator, so I've had a little bit of an advantage, in my view, on, and when I said to the president, left to our own devices, the appropriators, Democrats and Republicans, can work together to have a compromise on what we should do. It's when the poison pills come from on high that there's a problem of legislating on an appropriations bill. So we had those kind of, shall we say, clarifications that went along. But it was a long meeting. And I was very proud of the Senate Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer. He could speak New York to the president. Yes, Nancy.
The president sided with you yesterday against his Republican colleagues. This morning you spoke on the phone. You asked him to tweet something. He did it.
Yeah.
Are we seeing some kind of renaissance in your relationship, a new era of cooperation?
Well, Renaissance would indicate something went before, and now it's Renaissance, reborn. Here's the thing. The president, I think, I'm hoping and I'm praying, and I don't say that as a cliche. I am praying that the president really cares about the Dreamers or knows that he should care about the Dreamers, and that we're going to pass this bill. And we want to do it as soon as possible to strike while the iron is hot, because public opinion is so much in favor. And the church, the faith-based community, the business community, people who care about America are all weighing in on this. And that's, but one of the, and maybe you got wind of it, some of the concerns that people have when we came out is, well, it said 6 months, and these people are being fearful that it said, pack up because you're out of here in 6 months, not we have 6 months and we're going to pass a bill, so take comfort. So that's why I said to him, when he called this morning, I said, thanks for calling. This is what we need. People really need a reassurance from you, Mr. President, that the 6 month period is not a period of roundup, but is just that the DACA is frozen and that these people will not be vulnerable.
Was that why he called, or did he want to discuss other issues?
Well, you know, I'm not famous for going into details of conversations with presidents. We did talk about some other issues, but because he then put out that, and I was reporting to my colleagues, I said, this is what I asked the president to do, and boom, 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 the tweet appeared. So that was good. So, but we have to, you know, and again, this is when you're dealing on something that relates to immigration and the past experience, you have to build as much trust as possible because there's so much fear. And we're hoping that that they won't be rounding up people if their only violation of the law, in some people's view, is status. And this wasn't even a violation of law that they did because they came as children. So it's about the children, it's about young people, and we have to pass a bill. And that might mean on whatever vehicle's leaving the station, or maybe we can just do the DREAM Act free and clear. We're collecting what we're doing right now, and we're asking others to do. We're collecting co-sponsorships for Congresswoman Lucille Rohrabauer's bill, the DREAM Act. As you know, we passed it in the Democratic House in 2010. It couldn't get 60 votes in the Senate, but it did get a majority of votes in the Senate. So a majority of people in Congress at that time voted for it. We think we have a stronger hand now. Yes, Chad?
I know we have a lot on the September docket here that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But another issue that's been kind of in the weeds and we haven't talked much about lately is an AUMF.
Oh, yeah.
And lay out to the average person why this is such a nettlesome issue when you have both Democratic and Republican support. Now, this is not a partisan issue, and why this is so challenging.
The authorization of the use of military force, as we call the AUMF, is something that Barbara Lee, our Congresswoman on the Appropriations Committee, won actually in committee. It disappeared in the Rules Committee. I've seen a lot around here, but I've never seen anything disappear. I've seen people remove it or vote it down, but disappear is new. It is thought that the authorization for the use of force that was passed at the time of our initiation of hostilities into Afghanistan was such that it's time for something new. The impression I have from the administration is they think that what they're doing now is covered by the AUMF of 2002. 2001, right then in the fall. As you know, the aspects of an AUMF are about timing, how long does it last, geography, what does it cover, scope, what does it allow you to do? Is it boots on the ground? Is it whatever? So in terms of reviewing those aspects of for how long and for how wide an area and how what the scope of the military involvement would be, it's always, I think it would be really important for us to revisit. Now, the predication that was all predicated on Al-Qaeda, and then it was justified in terms of ISIS being a continuation of Al-Qaeda. And now geographically, it's in East Africa. You know, it's a broader area than what the original bill was about. So I would hope that we always would visit something that's now 16 years old and in a whole different world. But they're saying that they have it. Now, when President Obama was president and we wanted to have one, Speaker Boehner at the time said, we want to see an AUMF proposal from the White House. The White House that isn't really necessary because the AUMF is about our role in the use of force. But nonetheless, the president sent over his proposal. I think that they probably would want to give, and then we never acted upon it, but I think that they would probably give President Trump even more authority than was in the original. So I'm not, I think we should revisit it, but I don't see that happening soon.
This exacerbated now concerning the president's August message about, recommitting to Afghanistan.
Doing what?
He said, there was a question about what he was going to do about Afghanistan. He recommitted, said we're going to put in more troops. He wasn't going to draw back. And the fact that changes the equation here a little bit, and concern with some.
Right. I think it begs the question that we should revisit the AUMF. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick change of subjects here. You called for the Confederate statues in the Capitol, or at least for the states that deal with these statues, to perhaps have them removed. This whole debate, I mean, your father dedicated these Confederate statues over in Baltimore, I think it was in 48, Stonewall Jackson, Lee. These statues were vandalized. I think it was the Columbus statue over in Baltimore.
Yeah.
You had the Columbus
What is the
statue
question?
over in San Francisco.
What is your question?
I'm just wondering, is there any concern that now this has been expanded to perhaps maybe rewrite history a bit, maybe a revisionist history? Do you have any concerns
What is the
that it's
question?
expanded?
Okay.
Do you have concerns that there's been?
Well, members will, there is concern of, you've seen Congresswoman Lee, I think, is introducing a measure today. Senator Booker said he's going to be introducing legislation. All I was suggesting is when I was Speaker, what I did was I tried to, shall we say, mix it up in the Capitol. We put Sojourner Truth, we put Rosa Parks, more women, more minorities, and in significant places. My suggestion was just to the Speaker to review that. I don't know what will happen with any legislation. Yes. Yeah. Oh, you've had your hand up for a while.
I tried. Are you simply optimistic that President Trump would sign the DREAM Act, or have you been given a direct indication from him that he would do that?
The latter.
Do you want to say it more
I thought I spoke about that a lot. The president, both yesterday in the meeting and today, made it very clear he wants Congress to act to get this done. Now, just in kind of in the back and forth of all of this, what was interesting to me is that the president, well, the Attorney General's statement was something that was the equivalent of the worst statue you could ever think of. I mean, it was about white people in America, and it was a terrible, terrible statement. It was consistent with what the Bannon folks talk about when they want the purification of America. That's why they want to they want to deport the 11 million people in our country. So in that, shall we say, concern that we have, when the president said 6 months and Congress should act, and if they don't, I'll revisit it. Well, if you're saying that the action that President Obama took was not legal, how are you going to revisit it? It's going to be legal for you, but it wasn't legal for President Obama, and that's why you have to overturn it now. So I think we all came to a good place. Congress should act. We should remove all doubt. There should be statutory protection for the Dreamers. And quite the fact is that we need comprehensive immigration reform. And that would cover a lot more than just the Dreamers. But for right now, we have to strike while the iron is hot. The iron being what President Lincoln talked about, that I quote all the time: public sentiment is everything, and public sentiment is with the Dreamers right now.
Clarification on that?
Yeah.
So is this free and independent of any consideration of border enforcement? He said he would sign a standalone bill.
I think you probably want some border enforcement, and we have a responsibility to secure our borders. Then I've talked to him about, because he was talking about drugs coming into the country, and the biggest protector of that for us in that has been the Coast Guard. They have been the biggest interdictor of drugs coming into our country, but it does not include a wall. No. Yes, ma'am.
Following up on Nancy's question, more broadly than Dreamers, is this a new day of cooperation you think you have with the president? This morning he tweeted that he's looking forward to working with Democrats and Republicans. So do you think that you're entering into a new era of being of bipartisanship?
I don't know that. What I do know is that the world we live in is a giant kaleidoscope. One day, certain factors are in the design. Say this side of the room is opposed to what's happening on this side of the room. The next day it could be the front of the room versus the back of the room. You never know. So everybody you work with is a resource to you, or can be. So you want to have your debate and your engagement in a way that always recognizes that this person can be a resource in the next debate. A great woman who served here, Lindy Boggs, she would say to me sometimes when I would get, shall we say, exuberant on the floor, darling, she would always say darling, she was from Louisiana. Hal, who was the whip, Hal used to always say, don't fight every fight as if it's your last fight. So let's hope that this is a sign of something to come, but you never know where your shared interest might be. But one thing is for sure, we will not, in terms of what they're proposing on the tax cut, is severely detrimental to everything that we would care about in a budget in a bipartisan way. So we have some clear lines and others where we want to work together on reforming the tax code, simplifying it, making it more fair, making it more supplying what we need to meet the needs of the American people. So we have some things that we know are bigger problems than others, but always hopeful that we can find common ground, which we have a responsibility to do. If we can't find it, we stand our ground. So hopefully, always. Yes, sir.
Last question.
Yeah, I gotta go. I have a day job, you know.
Democrats frequently warn of the dangers of uncertainty in the economy, uncertainty if Congress doesn't act to fund the government and there's a threat of a shutdown, or doesn't raise the debt ceiling, there's a threat of a government default. Yesterday here, the Republicans are offering an 18-month debt limit extension, which would have offered certainty for 18 months. Democrats step in and say, no, let's do it for 3 months. How are you going to claim that you're, and just this morning you said you did it solely for the purpose of political leverage in December.
No, I did not say that. I did not say that. I said they said that about us. They said you're just doing this for political leverage. I'm saying we need leverage to do what we need to do. But I don't, if your question is, why don't we just do away with it? Now that's something we can talk about. Why don't we just do away with Congress voting to lift the debt ceiling? The Constitution says that the full faith and credit of the United States of America should not be questioned. It's not in doubt. The Gephardt rule that we lived under for a long time, named for our former leader, Dick Gephardt, was that it was contained in the budget bill, and when the budget passed, the debt ceiling was lifted. The president even suggested, has anybody ever thought about eliminating this vote? And we said, we'll take it back to our caucus. We'll take it back to our caucus. So I don't see that at all. No, I mean, there are many factors.
You said earlier that you had met with the caucus before going to the White House.
Right.
And that the consensus was that you can't do anything longer term than the CR because then you lose leverage. And that was the argument that you took to the White House.
No, all I said to them is this is what we're going to present. This is what we're going to present.
But does a short-term debt limit not increase the
No,
uncertainty
it doesn't.
in the economy?
No,
Now you have to vote on it twice in 3
no,
months
no.
versus
In
twice
fact, what creates uncertainty is what the Republicans did a few summers ago, where they said they were not going to lift the debt ceiling, and that that took our credit rating from AAA to AA. Just a suggestion. We said to them, we have most of our members have signed a letter to lift the debt ceiling, and we'll visit that when we finish with the appropriations bills and the rest of it. So we have said we're not going to let the government default. We're not going to let the government default. They haven't said that. They don't have the votes. That's why 3 months. You see? You see? He said that was the last one. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I can leave this here.